Welcome to the Practical Alchemist, everyone. I'm Meg, and today I would like to talk about duality. Ooh, one of my favorite topics. I have been recently toying with duality as sort of a thought experiment and considering opposites and how we progress through life, kind of pinging back and forth between opposites. How sometimes we can be in a gray zone where two opposing ideas or truths can simultaneously exist to some degree, and how we also sometimes ping to the extreme end. So I'll try and give a couple basic examples before I say the really controversial thing that I'm going to say. So trigger warning, I enjoy pushing back against what are commonly accepted ideas. And so if this video really pisses you off, I'm sorry, but also maybe there's something to explore there. So anyway, here's an example, two polar opposites, light and dark. This is something that the spiritual community talks about quite a bit. Whether you're of Christian alignment and you see, light and dark in certain ways. As an example, darkness being devil energy, sin energy, lack of trust in God energy, and the opposition being light, complete surrender to God, trust in God, selflessness, values like that. And then there's this gray area in the middle, right? Where we go through our day and we often experience the gray area because no one's perfect. And so some days we embody darkness and some days we embody light. Perhaps if you're of Wiccan or witchcraft or heathen or pagan alignment in your belief system, light and dark might look like light being a complete alignment with nature and Mother Earth, 222 as I said that. It might be a complete alignment with the higher power of the universe and purity of spirit and purity of intention and peace and trust. And the dark end might be, let's say, allowing your own injuries, right, your own traumas from the past to drive your decision making. Maybe it manifests as you doing some kind of craft or practice that is intended to harm others in some way. That's just another example. But then, again, there's gray area. There's space in the middle to float and experiment. And some days we are all light and some days we are all dark. And in some days I personally have been experienced light and dark energy to extreme degrees, within a span of like 20 minutes. It's changing. I think that's an indication that I'm learning a lot lately. So here's the controversial idea, 333 as I said that. Oh boy, brace yourself. A lot of folks in the spiritual community refer to the unseen dimensions of our universe and the conscious beings in those unseen dimensions as spirit. Some people refer to that unseen consciousness as God. Some people refer to them as, angels, ancestors, deities, gods, multiple gods. So let's put this on the polarity spectrum since we're talking about opposites. Some might consider ourselves, our incarnate beings, on an opposite end of the spectrum from the unseen, right? And so we end up often in these practices of talking to spirit, talking to God, talking to source, the universe, talking into the void, talking to anything on the quantum field that will listen. And I don't think any of that is wrong, because right and wrong depends on where you are on the scale, right? And I'm increasingly living in the middle more. But because context matters too, right? If you're not sure what I mean by that, go Google ethical experiments. Thought experiments on ethics, and you will see some really good examples of how things can be good or bad, right or wrong, based entirely on the context. Anyhow, if we're willing to play in the gray zone, what if you considered that we are not actually opposite or separate from spirit? What if we played with the idea, experimented with the idea that because we are a small piece of that source energy, we have the choice to integrate ourselves with it? And I don't mean just 555 on the clock. I don't just mean walking around day-to-day life in what some people call a Christ consciousness, which I think is great, or trying to embody that, trying to embody a Christ consciousness, which is, love for everyone, acceptance for everyone, selflessness, all, I think, wonderful things, and something I've tried to embody lately too. But that's not what I mean. What I mean is, what if because you are a piece of source, you are projecting yourself into the void when you experiment, and you actually are connected to the spirits that you talk to, right? So separation is spirit, please help me. Guides, please help me. God, please help me. I'm lost. I don't know what to do. Again, nothing wrong with that. But what if, because everything is one, what if you were your own spirit guide in some remote, aloof way? We've all been put into, I believe, this situation on Earth in order to experience contrast, and in order for us to appreciate the oneness that we have with source energy, we have to experience separation. I think this is all by design. But something I've been doing lately is when I talk to, spirit guides, ancestors, I try to put myself in an energy state of, actually, they're a little bit me and I'm a little bit them. And I don't perceive that in my day-to-day life because there is a deliberate design behind this matrix that we're living in. There is a deliberate intention for this perception of separation. But what if I approached discussing things with them as though I kind of am them and they are me? Some might call this an egregore, or a collective of consciousness, which, by the way, there is increasingly more evidence of collective consciousness in science. Check out the Heart Math Institute. It's really cool. There's all kinds of evidence emerging that actually says, yeah, we kind of all are one, which is scary and awesome at the same time. Right? Because we want the people that we dislike, we want to be like, I'm not you, but actually you kind of are. So how do you approach this play in this thought experiment in what if, I embody the spirits that I seek help from? I think that there's a big opportunity there to become your own best friend when you take on that mentality. What would I say to me in this moment of stress and duress, or in a moment of crisis, if I am both my incarnate self and my own spirit guide or my own higher self? If I was this, multidimensional being that can, defy time and gravity and zip around and be wherever I want to be and know whatever I want to know and have everything at my fingertips, what would I tell myself in moments of crisis and pain, suffering, pick your negative word? It's controversial because people, especially others, I think, and I trust that this video will find who it's supposed to find, the world writ large wants us to think that we don't have power, The systems that exist currently to shape our society and the institutions that shape our society don't want the individual to believe that they have power. And I want to turn that paradigm on its head and experiment and toy with the possibility that I actually have a lot of power and that you actually have a lot of power. And if everything is one, and if quantum entanglement is a thing, and if this is all an illusion and we all come from source and we are a piece of it and it is us, then you have power. And I think that we don't play enough, and experimenting with these concepts in the way that we project our core being in day-to-day life is a really cool way to discover things that maybe we haven't discovered yet. So try it, play with it. Maybe instead of, asking your spirit guides or God or source or whatever, the gods, whatever your particular 1111, whatever your particular alignment is, what if you experiment with, okay, I'm in crisis right now, or I'm in grief, or I'm in stagnancy, I'm in confusion. How would I behave if I embodied my higher self? How would I behave if I embodied my own spirit guides? If I was God, what would I say to me? And you might find that you give yourself some really good advice. You might find that you get some peace. And, if you feel like you need permission to do this experiment, you've got it. I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing source energy within ourselves, especially in an environment where everything and everyone wants to tell us that we're completely powerless. I think that's horseshit. Anyway, we're at 12 minutes. I went longer than I meant to, but I hope this was enjoyable, and I hope that you experiment with this idea and, trying to bring the poles together. And I hope that if you do experiment with it, you'll drop a comment in the comments section and let me know how it went. Much love to you, and I will see you soon.